So, while HERACLIUS is taking this pilgrimage, he himself was somebody who was very well acquainted of the knowledge of the stars, what we would call astrology. So while looking at the stars, he says that رأيت أن ملك الختان قد ظهر, that a leader is born from among those people who circumcise. فقالوا له, his comrades told him, ما يختتن في العالم إلا يهود, that only Jews engage in circumcision. There's nobody else that we know of that engages in circumcision. And if you're actually fearful of this, then why don't you send a letter to all of your umara, your generals? They can take a grasp, they can grab all of the Jews and, incarcerate them. قال لا تفعلوا. He said, don't do this. But at the same time, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam at this same time reached the shores of HERACLIUS with the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. فقال لأصحابه, he said to his companions, his comrades, انظروا أمختتن هو أم لا, is this person circumcised or not? They checked this person. This is how they dealt with kingdom politics. This was the backwardness of the time. Yes, this individual, once again, is among those who are circumcised. That is when HERACLIUS knew that this vision of his, or this, astrology of his, is not referring to the Jews. It's referring to the Arabs. فَعَلِمَ أَنَّ الْعَرَبْ يَخْتَتِنُونَ. Then he began to read the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. A message full of honor. A message showing the strength of Islam at that time. Although very few in number Muslims were, compared to the empires of that time. A message which encompassed that those who were inferior, and none of these empires wanted to even rule over them because of how they assumed their backwardsness. These are the same people now who are sending this message to HERACLIUS. What did Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam write in that message? The message was read in the diwan, in the court of HERACLIUS, and it started by saying, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the most kind, the most merciful. Min Muhammadin Abdillahi wa Rasulih, ila HERACLIUS, إلى هرقل عظيم الروم سلام على من اتبع الهدى. This is from Muhammad, the servant of Allah. Once again, a push to his face, a punch, metaphorical to his face, that a servant of Allah is the one who's sending me this message. He's addressing himself as the servant of Allah, not a king. وَرَسُولِهِ, and the messenger of Allah. Muhammad ibn Abdullah, from Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, to the emperor of the Byzantine Empire. Peace be upon those who follow the message of guidance. Amma ba'd, after praising Allah and His Messenger. فَإِنِّي أَدْعُوكَ بِدِعَايَةِ الْإِسْلَامِ أَسْلِمْ تَسْلَمْ وَأَسْلِمْ يُؤْتِكَ اللَّهُ أَجْرَكَ مَرَّتَيْنِ. I give you the invitation and the glad tidings of Islam. How many of us could easily give this message to another person because of how downtrodden our character has become? That we've lost the character of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, which was once upon a time at a rise and the cause of rise in this world. He said, accept Islam, embrace Islam, and you will be safe. You will be safe from the adhab of Allah. Accept Islam, and you will get your reward a double fold. The scholars interpret this to mean that you've already embraced good faith in Jesus, Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, now you'll believe in his reality and you'll believe in Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. This is the double-fold reward. Other scholars have mentioned the double-fold reward over here means that number one, the reward that you're getting through embracing Islam. Number two, the difficulties that you'll go through by accepting Islam. We tell the Muslims, and I tell myself the same thing. Yes, we will go through difficulties. At times we'll have to fight the nafs. We have to fight the people around us. You will go through trials, but the reward is greater than those trials. And then he goes on to say, فَإِن تَوَلَّيْتَ فَإِنَّمَا عَلَيْكَ إِثْمُ الْأَرِيسِيِّينَ. If you turn away from this message, then you will have the burden of the sins of your community of Arisiyin on your back. Arisiyin generally referred to fallahin, farmers. These were the people who then became a denomination and part and parcel of the subordinates of HERACLIUS. And he said to him, يعني عليك إثم, he said, وَإِذَا أَعْرَضْتَ اقْتَدَوْا بِكَ وَتَحَمَّلْتَ آثَامَهُم. This is what it means. ثم كتب عليه الصلاة والسلام قل يا أهل الكتاب تعالوا إلى كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم ألا نعبد إلا الله ولا نشرك به شيئا ولا يتخذ بعضنا بعضا أربابا من دون الله فإن تولوا فقولوا اشهدوا بأننا مسلمون. Say, O Messenger of Allah, O people of the book, come on a common platform, that we don't take our rabbis and our priests as gods other than Allah, that we worship one Allah. وَلَا نُشْرِكَ بِهِ شَيْئًا. And we don't associate any partners with this Almighty Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. This was the end of the letter. When character is upright, then you don't need immense explanation. Your character is enough to say, كُونُوا مِثْلَنَا. Just be like us and you'll find success. That was the main da'wah of the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, and the comrades of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Wherever they went, all they had to say was, كُونُوا مِثْلَنَا. Is it easy for the Muslim, my friend, today to say that, be like us? Why should I be like you? You cheat people in business. You don't even get along with your own relatives. You usurp the wealth of inheritance. You talk smack and back to those who are elder and to those who are younger. You've become a downtrodden community by action. Why should I embrace what you have? Honest, and truth be told, with honesty, that we haven't even embraced what we have. So, HERACLIUS at this moment, he looks towards his kingdom and he sees who among the people are most closest to this individual nasaban, by lineage. And at this moment they find Abu Sufyan, who's at that time an enemy of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, later becomes radiyallahu anhu ardah. So Abu Sufyan, he comes along with the people who have come with him over there to do the business that they're doing in the land of Sham. And he says, HERACLIUS says, أَدْنُوهُ مِنِّي, bring him close to me. They make Abu Sufyan the closest to HERACLIUS in position at that moment while standing. And his comrades, they stand behind him. The comrades of Abu Sufyan, the other people who are there, the other fellow merchants. HERACLIUS says to the tarjuman, the translator, قُلْ لَهُمْ إِنِّي سَائِلُ هَذَا الرَّجُلْ مَسَائِلَ فَإِنْ كَذَبَنِي فَكَذَّبُوهُ يعني إِذَا كَذَبَ عَلَيَّ فَأَشِيرُوا إِلَيْهِ. That I'm going to ask this man regarding this companion of theirs, if even once this individual speaks a lie, then tell these individuals behind him who are part and parcel of his community, to give me a hint that this individual is lying. We don't have the time to go into the entire dialogue of Abu Sufyan radiallahu anh that he had with HERACLIUS. But one thing for sure that we'll mention is that he says that I wanted so badly to lie in this dialogue of mine because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was an enemy of mine at that time. But this ghira prevented me. Right? This healthy possessiveness that we are Arabs, how can we lie? Imagine, this person is not even a Muslim at this moment. He says, how could we lie? Right? How could I lie? So Abu Sufyan, he says, HERACLIUS turns to Abu Sufyan and he says, what he says? He says, you know, don't lie, be very particular with your words. Abu Sufyan, he says, فَوَاللَّهِ لَقَدْ عَلِمْتُ أَنِّي لَوْ كَذَبْتُ مَا رَدُّوا عَلَيَّ وَلَكِنِّي كُنْتُ امْرَأً سَيِّدًا أتكرم عن الكذب وعرفت أن أدنى ما يكون في ذلك يعني أدنى ما يلحقني به من عاقبة كذبي أن يروه عني في مكة يروه عني في مكة. That I was a person of stature. I knew the least of things that would happen if I lied. And although lying was bitter to me, that these comrades of mine would tell people that this Sayyid of yours, this leader of yours, is a liar. Subhanallah. Look at the akhlaq of people who didn't even embrace the deen of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam at that time. Imagine at that time it was a general Arab thing not to lie. Abu Sufyan, he says, فَوَاللَّهِ لَوْلَا الْحَيَاءُ أَن يُؤْثِرُوا عَنِّي كَذِبًا لَكَذَبْتُ. Because of this haya and ghira and this self-possessiveness and healthy possessiveness that I had, if that was not there, I would have lied. Then HERACLIUS goes to Abu Sufyan and he asks him a few questions. So Abu Sufyan, he says, and he narrates, and this is a lengthy hadith in Bukhari. Inshallah, we'll pick very important parts of it. فَكَانَ أَوَّلُ مَا سَأَلَ عَنِّي أَنْ قَالَهُ لِي أَخْبِرْنِي عَنْ هَذَا الرَّجُلِ الَّذِي فِيكُمْ. يعني أعطيني معلومات عامة. Give me some general knowledge about this person who sent me this letter, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Abu Sufyan, he says, فَزَهَدْتُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِ. يعني I tried to make him look as so inferior, and I said, قُلْتُ هَذَا رَجُلٌ ضَعِيفٌ مِسْكِينٌ هُوَ سَاحِرٌ كَذَّابٌ. That I tried to make Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam look so bad. I said, this is a magician, he's a liar, he's come forth with this message. Actually, he's weak. He didn't say he's a liar. He's weak, and he is somebody who's a magician, and because of that magician, he's a kadhab. In other words, he lies through his sorcery. But while describing him, he didn't call him a liar. فَقَالَ HERACLِيُّ إِنِّي لَمْ أَطْلُبْ مِنْكَ. Look at the smarts of HERACLIUS. I didn't ask and seek from you that you ridicule him and tashtimahu. Rather, I want you to describe him as he is. كَيْفَ نَسَبَهُ فِيكُمْ. How is his lineage amidst you? فَقَالْ هُوَ ذُو نَسَبٍ فِينَا. He's somebody with a high and the most magnificent lineage. HERACLIUS says, هَلْ قَالَ هَذَا الْقَوْلِ فِيكُمْ أَحَدٌ قَبْلَهُ. Did anybody before him say what he said, invite you towards Islam? Abu Sufyan said, no, not at all. HERACLIUS then asked, were there any kings from among his lineage? Abu Sufyan said, no, not at all. Then he says, who follows him? Is it the rich and the majestic, or is it those who are poor? He says, rather mostly those who follow him are poor. Abu Sufyan, then Abu Sufyan, what he was saying, that we as honorable people don't follow him. It's only the downtrodden that follow Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Then he asks, أَيَزِيدُونَ أَوْ يَنْقُصُونَ? That are they increasing or are they decreasing? So Abu Sufyan responds, بَلْ يَزِيدُونَ. Rather, they're increasing in terms of their following. At this moment, O my Muslim brothers and sisters, look at HERACLIUS. At this moment where he says, بَلْ يَزِيدُونَ, you see HERACLIUS asking a question which literally judges the morality of the Muslims at that time. هَلْ يَرْتَدُّ أَحَدٌ مِّنْهُمْ سُخْطَةً لِدِينِهِ. In animosity to their deen, did any of them apostate? Let's take the, as they say, let's take the skin off the hair. Let's dissect the matter to the max. So Abu Sufyan, who's an enemy at that time, he says, لا, not at all. قال فهل كنتم تتهمونه بالكذب? Did you ever accuse him of lying before he invited you towards what he invited you to, and before he said what he said? Abu Sufyan says no. Does he deceive? HERACLIUS asks. Abu Sufyan says no. Then Abu Sufyan, he wanted to once again bring about some misleading information. So he tries to say, نحن الأمة نحن الآن في مدة أي في هدنة. We're in a ceasefire at this moment. لا ندري ماذا هو فاعل. But we don't know what he'll do. But he didn't answer the question that was asked. Did he deceive ever in terms of battle or any other way? But he tried to once again turn around and mold that question to show that maybe he'll deceive. We don't know. But we're in a ceasefire at this moment. In any case, going on, he asks a few other questions. And he says, how was the battles that took place in between you and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam? So he said, sometimes we would win, sometimes they would win. So what does he invite you towards? Why are you so hostile towards him? قال, Abu Sufyan says, he says, اعبدوا الله وحده ولا تشركوا به شيئا واتركوا ما يقول آباؤكم وأمرنا بالصلاة والصدقة والعفاف والصلة. All he says is worship one Allah. Do not associate any partners with that one Allah. Leave the fairy tales and the falsities that your grandfathers and granddads and fathers would engage in. He engages us and enjoins upon as-salah. And he tells us to give charity. He tells us to join ties with our family members. And at the same time, he tells us to bring about modesty. When HERACLIUS heard this message, and his vision and his studies were reinforced, he understood that Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is a prophet that was sent for the guidance of humanity. And then he says, number one by one, he says, I asked you about his nasab. You said his lineage was, is very pristine. And then he goes on to say, just the same in this likeness are the messengers of Allah. They are very pristine when it comes to their lineage. I asked you if anybody before him, he said this, if anybody before him gave you this da'wah. You said no. He said, if anyone, فلو كان أحد قال هذا القول قبله لقلت رجل يتأسى بقول من كان قبله. I would have answered, if somebody did give you this message before him, that's it's just a repetitive message. But if this individual is bringing this message from the inception and from the get-go, then understand that this is the quality of the Prophet. I asked you, was anyone from his lineage or from his fathers a king? You said no. And he said, in that likely manner, this is the situation of the prophets, that generally they come from a lineage where they are part and parcel of the people, and people are part and parcel of them. Yes, my friends, if you want to be a change, if you want to be a guide, then you are among the people. People need to make a difference before you see the leadership becoming different. If we stay the same, and if we just blame others for our grievances, and our perhaps misdoings, then nothing will change. He says, this is how I know he's a prophet. Long story short, he says many other things. He says, if this individual is as you describe to him to be, then he will own these two, he will basically own this throne of mine. A time will come where he will be owning this throne of mine. And yes, in the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu ardah, the Muslims, they liberate and they bring the fall of the Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine Empire. لَيَمْلِكُ مَوْضِعَ قَدَمَيَّ هَذِهِ. He will own the two places of my feet that I stand here today. So this is HERACLIUS, who understood Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. He sends a message back, and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says, كَذَّابٌ وَإِن صَدَقَ. This person's a liar even though he's told the truth. In other words, he told the truth about Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam and the deen of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala and the chain of messengers that are to come. But kadhab, he rejected the message because of, once again, that fear of losing his crown and losing his kingdom. My friends, if people who didn't embrace Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam understood the value of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, you have the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you have access to his conduct, you have access to his teachings, then why at times are we the farthest from the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam? Is it that we got a particular wealth and we just got used to it? That we got used to this wealth, that we don't even see it as priceless anymore. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reform us in the best of ways. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy upon the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. And we ask Allah to take us from strength to strength and rectify our situation. We ask Allah to grant all of us Jannah without any reckoning. الحمد لله الواحد المنعم والصلاة والسلام على محمد سيد الأنام وعلى آله الكرام وصحبه العظام وسلم تسليما كثيرا ما دام يجري هذا النظام. Let's take a glimpse of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam's da'wah to HERACLIUS. Just a glimpse of it. And the response that Abu Sufyan gave to that glimpse of the da'wah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Let's just take those aspects beyond any other aspects. Have we perfected salah, i.e., have we fulfilled the haqq of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala as Muslims? This is something that we need to reflect upon day by day. When Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, He says, أقيموا الصلاة. He doesn't just say establish salah. جُزْ يُرَادُ بِهِ الْكُلِّ. Allah's mentioning the greatest of the huquq of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. The greatest of the rights of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. That establish prayer, in other words, if you establish the highest, then the lowest of other aspects that are related to Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, your connection between you and Allah tabarak wa ta'ala should be pristine and intact. It doesn't mean you pray salah, you establish salah, and everything else in terms of lying, ghibah, treachery, that is at a rise in your life. No. If the highest of the haqq of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala is mentioned to be fulfilled, then everything under that should be fulfilled as well. And by atuz zakah, where Allah tabarak wa ta'ala tells us that bring about the social stability to zakah. Yes, zakah is a right of humanity. In other words, if this highest thing needs to be fulfilled, where you try to bring stability to society through your charity, then what about everything else that relates to humanity? And in response to that, Abu Sufyan radiyallahu anhu ardah, he says, يَأْمُرُنَا بِالصَّلَاةِ يَأْمُرُنَا أَنْ لَا نُشْرِكَ بِاللَّهِ شَيْئًا. That he gives us that command that we don't associate any partners with Allah. وَيَأْمُرُنَا بِالصَّلَاةِ. Right? Look at the da'wah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam to the Quraysh. He enjoins upon us prayer. Is our prayer as Muslims intact? Is our zakah as Muslims intact? Modesty. Are we modest? In terms of our family, is our family intact? Or are we breaking our families? We've seen in this time and age where people easily make up with Bob, Julie, John, and Paul if they've offended them or if they had thrifts or rifts. But it will be very difficult for them to make up with a Muslim. And on top of those Muslims, their family members. These are the first and foremost recipients of our love. If you can't get along, then at least Assalamu alaikum and wa alaikum assalam is sufficient. And asking your how are yous, wa kayfa halukum. Let us try our best from the inception to bring this initial da'wah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in our lives. That even if we are minimalists in fulfilling the haqq of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, at least we can go to our graves while saying in our hearts that inshallah I've done something for the sake of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. Even if we're minimalists, Allah will grant us Jannah bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We ask Allah to grant us goodness. Inna Allahu malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa zid wa barik wa tahannan ala sayyidina wa habibina wa maulana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام لا تسبوا أصحابي فلو أن أحدكم أنفق مثل أحد ذهبا ما بلغت مد أحدهم ولا نصيفه ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في غزة وفي فلسطين اللهم انصرهم في جنين اللهم انصرهم وثبت أقدامهم وانصرهم على القوم الظالمين اللهم اغفر لأمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم أحسن أخلاق أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم أصلح أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم تجاوز عن أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون قوموا إلى الصلاة
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله